lots going on in the world right now. We've had a rally in a lot of our commodities before even this new war on Iran started this last weekend. I guess, is there anything kind of catching your attention as we, start the month of March here when looking at specialty crops or anything in general?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a number of things going on, and I think canola has probably been the biggest beneficiary. Partly due to oil prices going up and stuff like that. Although that link is, some people think it's a real strong link. Others not so much. We saw the bigger jump, I think, when China confirmed that the lower tariffs on canola seed were happening. That certainly helped the picture. One thing that I've noticed, just as a bit of a because we track the trade of canola oil and canola meal and things like that, and then we track the production of it as well to what we're putting out from Canadian crushers and so on. And I've noticed that in the last, this year so far, for sure, that the percentage of oil and meal that we're using domestically has gone up. And I think that's probably partly a pricing related thing. If it's harder to find a home for your canola meal, you discount it, and so then the domestic feeders and stuff like that will start using canola meal more, that sort of thing. Whether that sticks or not, once now that we have the trade lanes open again and that sort of thing, whether that sticks or not, that's going to be kind of a bit of an interesting thing. But we'll see whether we're using 35% of our canola oil production domestically so far in 25, 26. And that's up from probably about 25%. So that's a real change. And meal, it's lower, but it has also increased as well too. So that would be great. I mean, that's something that the Canola Council has been working on for decades, is to increase domestic consumption. So, so that's a positive thing. But yeah, we'll see how those things change, especially now that we can ship more readily to China and so on and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so Friday you're on the beach, but Friday we get word that China's lifting the tariff on peas, and canola meal I think was in that one, and I don't know, some seafood as well, lobster maybe, I can't remember. And then Saturday morning the canola seed one gets reduced to 14.9%. But how long is this for? Is this I read 5 years on one report, and then I also read 9 months.
I think on the meal and the peas and things like that, that's to the end of 2026.
Okay.
And for the seed, that's the one that I think is the 5-year deal. And to be clear, like, there is a 9% import tariff on, that's been there, that applies to everybody. So the difference for Canadian canola seed, I think, is 6% compared.
Oh, okay.
But that's not enough to really get in the way of trade or things like that. So yeah, those are positive things. And even the 9-month thing for, the 2026 thing for meal and peas and things like that, I think that's kind of a bit of a twist or a bit of an influence to say, Mark Carney better not get too uppity in the next while, and then we'll extend it. But just a bit of a, keep your elbows down when it comes to China, and then we'll extend it type of thing.
Just a quick aside. So I took my kids to this monster truck thing on Sunday, and this poor fellow from the U.S., his monster truck is called Elbows Up, and he's from Phoenix, Arizona. And he's driving this truck, and I got there and I'm like, Mark Carney has a monster truck? I'm like, and then they introduced him and everything. I'm like, oh, this poor guy he's elbows up all the time. But I think maybe that's where Carney got it from. Maybe he saw that same truck and was like, that's a great one, I'm going to use that. But
I thought I saw him at the last event there. Yeah.
All right, so we've got a very intense situation that's developed in the Middle East. We've got I can't figure out who's all getting bombed and who is not. It's very hectic over there. Is there any concern in this chaos, for specialty crops? Is there any concern that moving lentils or peas to that region could be a worry or delayed.
Well, I think that is a real concern. One of the new entrants, or not one of the countries that's entered the special crop, the pulse business in a bigger way in the last, I'm going to say 2 to 3 years, has been UAE, and so that would probably be the most concerning with respect to shipping or shipping costs, even insurance costs of getting the product there, those types of things. I think that one is one that could be affected by this more so than Turkey isn't really part of. It's still a bit outside that scope, although you know, you never know how big this thing could get, or things like that. Other countries in like Egypt and whatever, so far again, are outside of that fray. So I think right now it might be very specific and cause delays for sure. But sometimes those kind of things also, then you just redirect the ship to some other destination, and you still make it work, and that type of thing. But there is a risk, certainly, of that getting even broader and so on. But yeah, we hope that it won't, that there will be some sort of some sort of resolution, whether it's a forced resolution or something like that. But we'll see. I mean, the thing is that you have these predictions. How long is it going to last? Well, nobody knows. It could, all of a sudden you could have that Iranian government just capitulating and just say, okay, we're done. And then everything quiets down again very quickly. So there's just no way of predicting.
Yeah, and I believe I read this morning within Iran, they're electing a new leader, or putting a new leader in place here. Obviously, that's going to have an impact on, who knows, that person may come in and say, okay, this is chaos. Let's just shut everything down here and comply, or let's ramp up. So I have no idea what's going to happen. I know how important that shipping lane is, and you can see it. Like, you can see it in, comments about, the U.S. will insure the vessels, or we will escort the vessels. Like, it's so important that they're going to try to get that that path, that seaway, or that area open as fast as they can, because it's such a big impact. So I
mean, for Canadian crops, not as much. I remember when there were previous disruptions to the trade there and things like that. Again, a few destinations, but Canadian crops generally don't go that way. But what it could do is it affect shipments, exports from Russia, Ukraine, whatever, because they do use that Strait of Hormuz much more heavily for their getting their products out. So, in some ways, if this were to continue, could actually be helpful for Canadian ag. But you don't want to profit at the expense of someone else's misery, kind of thing. Well, yeah.
We all take turns. We tend to all take turns somehow, in some way. But all right, let's switch gears now to StatsCan and acreage numbers. Now, the StatsCan report, we're recording this on Wednesday. StatsCan's coming out Thursday morning, but this episode won't go till Friday. So just be cautious, Chuck. We're going to be after the StatsCan. So if you make some bold predictions, it'll verify right away. Anyways, what are you looking towards? General comments, specialty crops, anything kind of stand out?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I would say, my first disclaimer, let's put it that way, is that the StatsCan numbers are based on a survey that was done of farmers in December. And you think about what the situation was like in December, and what was going on, what wasn't going on, all of those kind of things. And things have certainly changed since then. For some of the crops, like wheat and durum, and, that the markets really haven't gone anywhere. So that's still, that part hasn't changed all that much. But canola certainly has, and also more certainty with respect to trade. With with China and especially, and even a bit more certainty with respect to U.S. biofuel policy, those kind of things, puts a bit of a glow or a gloss on the canola market. Mm-hmm. The barley market has continued to firm up, and so that's a positive thing as well.
I call it like kind of hot. Like the barley market to me, like, if we're looking at how everything else is so quiet, it's hot, that barley market.
Yeah. And even peas. I mean,
Yep.
again, the prices haven't taken off, but there is at least that certainty with respect to Chinese trade and so on. So if you're thinking about the 26 crop, okay, you already know that China is going to be in the market for the fall shipping program and all of those kind of things. Now, I would also have to add, Ryan, that some of these moves are seasonal in nature.
What?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Concept, brand new concept. Yeah.
All right, hot off the press. So give it to us.
I mean, the move in canola is faster and sharper than we would have expected based on what was happening previously. But some of this stuff is just happening normally. So anyway, so those kind of price moves have been happening, and trade news has become brighter, all of that kind of stuff since the December survey was taken. So that said, our guesses were probably at the higher end of the trade for canola and for barley and so on. So we were already kind of leaning in that direction. So those ones I think that's pretty commonly held already, is that acreage of those two crops, are going to be up. Peas may not be, will be down, but not as much as maybe it would have looked like earlier, because again, there's a little more certainty and that sort of thing about that trade. But there's going to be shifts even within the market. So for example, even if lentil acres are down a little bit, or you might see red lentil acres actually increasing, and then greens dropping, which they should, which hopefully they will. So you'll see those kind of shifts, because even if you look at red lentil prices and green lentil prices in the last month or so, and I hate doing this, or I hate it when people do this, but when they do the hindsight thing and say, oh, see, I told you I was gonna. Well, I've been saying for months that red lentils have more upside potential than greens. And
I could dig in the archives and probably pull a clip or two.
There you go. But anyway, so that seems to be happening now, and for a few reasons. But so the red lentils you could see more acreage there, and hopefully less greens. Oat acreage is going to drop, and that's one that could get really interesting if acres drop. Like if you're a contrarian, that might be one you want to look at to say, if everybody else is getting out of oats, and we know there's a certain amount of steady demand from the U.S. and maybe from others, and if you, so that's one that has a bit of interesting take on it. The one thing though that when we were running our numbers and putting in these acreage changes, and we also realized that crop rotations are a lot stickier than than analysts like us would like to believe, and we like to everybody's going to be doing this and nobody's going to be growing that. And,
these massive swings, dream up these massive swings.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
But anyway, so we talk about that. But one of the things when we were working through all of our numbers and things like that, if we just drop back to average yields, there's going to be a bunch of balance sheet spread like S&Ds for a bunch of crops that are going to get to the snug side next year. So
anything
for some
stand
of them,
out in that list?
Well, I think oats might be one of those.
There you go. Yeah.
Lower acres and drop back to average yields or something like that. I mean, we have no idea what yields are going to be, but right now we do need them to be big. So let's just make
sure
the highest odds are around average, right? That's your best odds, is an average type of a yield.
Yeah.
But even canola could get snug by later into next year. Like the pulses, and again, it'll vary within the various lentils and peas, and so on. Those are going to take a bit longer to work down, but especially green lentils, green peas, like those ones are going to take longer to draw those supplies down. But yeah, there's a number of them that could get tight going into next year. Snug. I won't get wild and crazy. I won't say tight. I'll say snug.
No, we'll check the weather in July, and then you can say tight
for sure.
Well, I think even within that here, I'm with you on the canola and the barley. And like, I believe that was solid when we were sitting in Moose Jaw in early December. Like, to me, that was already kind of solidified. And then the markets found a better, reason to solidify that even more for those higher acres. I see a little change in like yellow pea acres climbing now because those bids are getting to a spot that are, especially compared to a spring wheat, are attractive. But the one thing here that's bugging me, Chuck, and I need the green pea market to rally, but I got offered the same price per bushel for new crop green peas and yellow peas. And I was like, no, you've made a mistake. This is not the right, like I'm talking about green peas here. And they're like, no, that is the offer for new crop green peas. What's going on here? What's wrong with my green peas?
Well, relatively speaking, those supplies are heavier because in 2025, we had lots of contracting of maples and of greens, and rightfully so. And so the production responded and so on. I mean, one of the things that troubles me a little bit is the fact that there are still companies that are not issuing new crop bids at all for some of the special crops. Yeah. Even Durham, like, it's really quiet new crop wise. Mm-hmm. But what that tells me, if you dial forward, when we looked at seasonal tendencies for new crop bids, this is a year where, like, if you're looking ahead to 26, 27, and you're thinking supplies are going to get lower than they are now for sure, it's not the type of year where you want to be new crop or contracting new crop heavily.
As a
certainly
farmer.
Do some. But don't go as heavy. I would say, it's the type of year, if you're thinking supplies are going to get snugger into next year, like the years when we did we did our analysis of how new crop bids move. If you can kind of see that the market might get less heavy in the next year, you want to lighten up a little bit with your new crop contracting. And I know that's the risk management people, would tell me to shut up about that. But it's the way that the markets tend to move, and that's intuitive. Farmers know that and that sort of thing. But anyway, it's just interesting.
To add to that, Chuck, what I find fascinating, like, if you were on the buy side of this equation, like, wouldn't you be like pounding the drum out there with your new crop low ball price, like trying to, but we're not really seeing that either. Like, we're not seeing like the story to convince farmers, like, hey, if you plant this, you might produce more of it and the price is going lower. Like, this, as a buyer, you'd be saying, hey, I want to own this stuff, right?
And so prices. If buyers have less coverage as you get further into it, I mean, even the other thing that we've done when we've looked at new crop seasonals, like from the kind of January to June or January to July kind of time frame, pretty consistently those prices, your worst new crop bids are in January, and your best ones are in May, June. So the new crop bids, for some crops, they follow the regular seasonal move, but they also, on average, those new crop bids just get better and better the further you go into it. And if buyers don't have a lot of coverage, they may have to get more aggressive later in the contracting season, like in, May, June kind of time frame. So again, it's, I wouldn't be rushing out to pick off these bids right now. And for canola, like, the new crop basis is still just
horrible. And I talked to a farmer the other day, and he went to his 2 local grain companies in town, and he said, I would just like to price the futures. I'd like to leave the basis open. Mm-hmm. And you know what they told him? They said, we've only done that. This guy's been working there for like 8 years, this buyer. And he said, I've only done that twice in my life, where a farmer has locked in futures and left basis open. Like, I spilled a cup of coffee on myself Tuesday on the live show. Like, I was ready to do that again when I heard that. Like, insane. And I was looking at one of our contracts. We had a target in for new crop, and I was like, wait a second. I was like putting the information in. I'm like, guys, no more of this. No more of this. Futures only, guys. Like that was a minus 66, guys. Let's pump the brakes here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will say though, Chuck, like on our farm today, canola pays the bills.
Yeah.
And so we have been very proactive on hedging and protecting. We got some upside. It can go up, but we've been covering our butts on the downside.
Yep. Yeah, as long as you got that upside potential, then you go at it for sure. But for other crops, you don't have that option.
We've seen in Alberta, malt barley prices have climbed 30 cents a bushel in the last couple of weeks here. We've seen feed barley definitely holding steady, maybe up a little bit as well for new crop. We've seen a small little tiny gain in oats, but not enough there. Things are coming. I saw wheat basis improve a little bit, which is one of my concerns this fall, is that wheat basis not getting as sweet as it's been, but I've been wrong on that one. So hopefully I continue to be wrong and it gets better. Yellow pea bids have climbed for new crop. It's starting to feel better. And I know that, we did a poll here and the negativity, the doom with the higher diesel prices, the higher fertilizer prices, it's real. Survey, 60% of people said, margins are sunk for 2026. And I sit here feeling the most optimistic that I've felt all year. And I think I'm on record a few weeks ago saying I was already feeling optimistic. I'm feeling pretty good. Like, what's wrong with me?
No, I think there would be a very interesting study to do is to track farmers' mood, sentiment, whatever you want to call it, and see whether there's a seasonal nature to that as well.
There's your next chapter.
When you're swirling the bowl and the toilet bowl and that kind of thing, the only thing you can do is look up and that's the only and it's not even that dire, I would say. It's just it has been difficult, but that's what markets do, is the low prices discourage production, discourage acreage, whatever, and then you end up coming out the other side at some point. For things like wheat, it's been a long low, but even that isn't unusual. Like that's a fairly typical response in the wheat market, is that those lows can last 2-3 years, and then you start to climb.
And you have to be sharp within those, because the gains sometimes are 30 cents and you're like, that's nothing. Canola just moved $1, but that might be it on the wheat side. So,
you can't wait 2 to 3 years to sell your wheat. I get that. Yeah.
All right. I did have one question come in from Kyle about canary seed. And he did submit this for the Tuesday show, but with Iran, we did skip over it. Kyle's looking for some insight over the next couple months here. So March, April, is there an opportunity for canary seed to rally prior to the start or the momentum of planting this year's crop?
I mentioned that some of these crops or a lot of these crops are going to be, with average yields, will be looking a little bit tighter next year. Canary seed is not one of those. It's one where, if you get a half a cent or a cent, like, I think that's beyond where we are right now. I think that's the most you can expect. And it might be somebody who needs a couple 100 tons to fill a train or some containers or whatever. Those are the kind of opportunities. There is a lot of canary seed out there. And even for 26, 27, I'm really hoping acreage drops hard, because it needs to, even with average, even if you come back down to average yields, there's still a lot of canary seed for 26, 27 as well. So, the next few months, again, sometimes we get a vessel, a bulk shipment out of Thunder Bay, and I'm not sure where Kyle is at, where I'm guessing canary seed grower, probably Saskatchewan.
I don't know where in Sask, but yeah.
But anyway, so every so often you'll get those, and it tends to be Viterra that does those kind of, they call it a grocery boat. There's often flax, canary, sometimes some mustard goes on it as well too. And then, when they assemble what they need for that, then you might have a bit of a bump in bids, but there is so much canary seed out there that, like, if they bump it a half a cent a pound or a full cent a pound, they're going to have more canary seed than they know what to do with. Part of it is so much of that canary seed, people still have 40 cents in their expectations. So that's not going to come to market, but there is enough out there. And especially for the guys that had big yields, they yielded even at, 19-20 cents for canary seed. Like, even the canary seed was profitable this year just based on the big yields that they had. So there's enough people out there that will sell at those low prices that I don't think there's, especially in the next few months, like a max of a cent. And it's going to be pretty fleeting. Those opportunities are going to be pretty fleeting. So it depends what his expectations, or even if you want 21, 22 cents, I don't think that's in the works. And it may not be until well into the second half of 26, 27. Like, it's just very oversupplied. So I don't know how many other ways I could say the same thing, but it's heavy.
Well, I'll try to get the editor to turn that into the opposite of what you just said, so he can feel both.
Sorry if I was being too nuanced there.
All right, Chuck. Well, appreciate you being on the show this week. Are you on the road at all? Are you been in front of a pile of farmers this winter? Anything else going on?
Yeah, I'm going to Toronto next week. There's a big convention out there that I've gone to a few times, and so if people have suggestions for what you'd like me to tell the Eastern Canadian folks, fire them my way. That's not a problem. And then I'm actually going down the week after. I'm actually making a bit of a road trip down into Plentywood, Montana.
Okay.
So there's a farmer meeting down there, and I don't know, that should be fun. Hopefully they don't ask me to get political and whatever, but run me out of town.
Elbows up. Yep.
Yeah, maybe I should do that just for a kick. Anyway,
I'll send you the picture of the elbows up monster truck.
Okay.
So I did take a picture for you there. Awesome. All right, and one last thing, actually, we chatted with you before the workshop in Brandon that you had, obviously very well attended, but what did you learn out of those two workshops earlier this year that you put on?
Yeah, we did them. We did one in Saskatoon and in Brandon, and then we also did a slightly shorter one in Winnipeg at Crop Connect show. And I would say, like, this, a lot of it was around seasonals and stuff like that. And again, it's not a revelation. People know generally that prices do that. But then when you start to quantify it, and you show that, and we did these thought experiments. So, if you sold everything in the months of its seasonal high, for durum, it's November, and oats, it's November, and canola, and a lot of things, it's May kind of time frame and that sort of thing. And if you're a 4,000 or 5,000 acre farmer and that type of thing, what difference that would make out of the last 9 or 10 years, you would do better doing that than spreading out your sales through the year. And so, but when you start to add it up, like, it turns into real money. And now we're not advocating that everybody just, put all their chips on black or that sort of thing. But, like, there's real money there. The one thing that we learned we need to do more work on is separating seasonals for some crops into futures and basis. There's a real interest, again, for, like, when do you lock in the basis? When do you lock in futures and that sort of thing for some of those crops? So there was more interest in that. So we need to do more work in that way. So it's, but there's a lot of, I think good feedback that we got from that, and
good.
Lots more to do.
Awesome. So we can look forward to another round of those sessions next winter. You thinking?
I think so. Yeah. I think we'll give it another go and see how it goes. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, Chuck. Where can people find you if they're looking for more information on specialty crops or all of the 16, 18, 20 crops that you cover?
Yeah, you can go to the website, leftfieldcr.com, and we really tell people, like, please do the free trial first, because we don't do recommendations. There's just John and myself that work. So we don't have time to craft recommendations for everybody and all of that kind of stuff. But we love talking to people if they want, whatever. They can go there, get the free trial first. Because we're not everybody's favorite flavor, give us a try.
Awesome. Sounds good, Chuck. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll catch up real soon.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.